Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Love During Lockup, Season 4, Episode 3, Till Death Do Us Part. If you're new here, I'm Mom, or Kay from Millennial and Mom, and Millennial will be joining us sometime during the season. She's got work obligations, but until then, you have me, and that's okay. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, leave your comments, and share the video too. And if you're interested, we have a membership with a description down below in the description box. Okay, everyone, so let's get started. Now, last week, I unintentionally left off a couple we were introduced to, Mark and Sensei. So let me just give you a background on them before I begin this week's episode. Mark is a tech guy living in Las Vegas. He says he makes about $600,000 a year, so he's not hurting for money. He likes to travel, just spending on the lash and lavish things that, he wants to spend his money on because, hey, he earned it. Now, the reason why he has turned to Love After Lockup and the Facebook prison pen pal, how he met Sensei, is because Mark says he's not the type of guy who would necessarily attract Instagram models. So he's turned to the Facebook pen pals, because there's a better chance of him maybe meeting someone, perhaps his yin to his yang. That's what Mark says. So Mark has a video call set up with Sensei today, and Mark has his friend Derek at the house to give us some tips and pointers, like he's unsure what to say when Sensei calls. Now, his friend Derek, I believe that's his name, was in prison for 10 years for whatever he was doing. He got out, him and Mark met at some type of get together with people who network, and they became fast friends. So before Sensei calls, he's saying, so, what do I say? What do I do? And Mark is asking, well, do you think this is your forever? What is it that you really want to know? Get to the nitty gritty. Ask her why she wants to be with you. So then Sensei calls. The meetup, the date, or whatever you want to call, went okay. Mark didn't seem like he was as nervous as he put on to be with Derek. I mean, he asked her regular questions like, how are you? What are you doing? Those basics, and where do you see yourself in a few years? Well, Sensei said that she sees herself being out and free and, changing her life around and possibly being with Mark. Now, the background of Sensei is she's spending 11 years in prison because her and her boyfriend, ex or whatever they are, decided to shoot up Sensei's grandmother's house for whatever reason they chose to do it. So here's my thing. So if Sensei can shoot up her grandmother's house, your grandma, what did the grandma have that she thought was so important or maybe needed from her grandma that her grandmother was like, nope, you can't have? But your grandma, make that make sense to me. I can't even imagine your grandma. Okay, so moving on. Well, after the voice call, Mark is okay how it went, and his friend Derek said, okay, man, you hit all the good points. And so where do you go from now? Well, you know what? Mark also has a spreadsheet, just like another person on here, Ty, who has spreadsheets with the people that she's talking to in prison about who they are, where they're located, when they're getting out, things like that. So I guess the spreadsheet isn't too uncommon. And then Mark says it's cheaper to talk to Sensei and more, along the line of trying to get to know her better, and more at he has the advantage because he's on the outside and he could take his time getting to know her and anyone else he's talking to. And then he also talks about how it's cheaper to date someone in prison. It's different than, in his words, he puts it like a $200 dinner for him and a date versus sending Sensei $50 for a commissary and should last her the whole month. So that's his perception and his view on the reason why he's dating not just Sensei and some other people that's also on that spreadsheet. And who knows, maybe we'll get to see them along the way in this season too. All right, so we're caught up with last week. So let's move to today's episode. So we see Melissa. Melissa is with Louie. She's on her way to Georgia to finally meet Louie, because see, Louie is at a transitional house, which is not in prison. It's not a halfway house. It's a place where he gets to go out and work, but he's got to come home back to transitional house to check in, after he's done working, just like a leeway to find him employment and just, have him something positive to do for when he gets back into the regular working life. And so apparently Melissa is the only one who knows that she's on the way to Atlanta, because when she finally lands, she calls one of her sisters to say, hey, guess where I'm at? This sister's like, where? She's like, Atlanta. Well, she says Georgia. Sister says, are you serious? Are you crazy? Melissa says, no. I mean, how do you think I'll be able to meet Louie and get to know him better if I don't come see who he is? You can at least wish me luck for what I'm trying to do. Her sister says, no, I'm not going to wish you luck because you're not going to get it. And I'm like, you know what? Her sisters, from when they talked to her at the coffee shop last week, aren't here for Melissa. Melissa's relationships, Melissa's demeanor, Melissa's thought process, because you know what? Melissa is still, in my opinion, thinking and acting and maneuvering like she's still that 15-year-old high school freshman from when she met Louie in high school. Louie don't remember her, but she remembered Louie because Louie was part of the cool kids. Well, anyways, after she gets off the phone, the next time we see Melissa, she's driving to Louie's transitional place where he works during the day. So she gets out the car. She's got binoculars. I'm like, binoculars? She came prepared. Like, who brings binoculars to see what someone is doing in a transitional center or a prison? But I guess people do. It's not my life, but people do. And someone like Melissa definitely does. So she's outside looking. She's trying to see, well, which one is Louie? And she thinks she's finally seen him outside, right? So she decides to call him on the phone. He answers. She's like, hey, guess where I'm at? He goes, where? She goes, I'm standing here looking at you. Do you see me? I'm across the way. So he's looking, I guess, from where he's at. And you could kind of see the other people outside of his workplace. They're blurred out. We can't see who they are. And we can't even see Louie at this point. And he goes, oh, are you the one wearing black? She's like, yeah, that's me. I mean, just all giddy. Louie says, why are you here? You can get me in trouble. Like, as if you don't know the laws. He says the state of Georgia don't play. So it's best if you don't contact me right now. Pretty much I'll holler at you when I get home, or call me later. And Melissa is not listening to this. She's not here for us. She goes, no. She goes, I just want to see you. Like, what are they going to do? I mean, Melissa, they just told you what they would do. Or Louie told you what they could do, what could happen. Like, his privileges could get revoked. He could go back inside to the prison for violating, because who knows? You may be trying to help him break out. And knowing Melissa, she probably would. If you told her what to do, she would be game for that. I'm just saying. So Melissa goes, hey, look over here. I'm going to flash you. So Melissa decides to flash her boobs. I'm thinking, man, she really doesn't care about any possible consequences with Louie. And then the next thing is Melissa says, hey, I'm going to walk down to you. Louie says, no, don't do that. Now, Melissa, again, do you want to see your man or you don't want to see your man? Do you want to see him with freedom or you don't want to see him with freedom? I mean, he just told you, like I mentioned, don't do that. Don't call my job while I'm here, trying to come see me to get me in trouble and all this stuff. But Melissa's not listening, like I mentioned. She walks down to him. Apparently, Louie was able to walk off, find a shed, and do what they do. Melissa came back to the hill where her car was. She told us that, they got a kiss in, they made out, and, he grabbed her butt and different things like that, but they had to go because someone was knocking on the shed. I mean, really, was it worth that? Melissa, was it worth it? And also, too, now that Louie participated, because if it was me, if I was Louie, I wouldn't even have met her around the corner of the shed. Because, I mean, to take possibly privileges away from me to get me sent back up, oh, no. And then what Melissa heard last week from Louie's mom, Mama Donna. Oh my goodness. Can you just imagine if Louie and Melissa got caught, Louie got his privileges pulled, back off for probation or whatever, and headed back inside for violating? Oh my goodness. And she wants to meet his mom? Nah, that's not a good look. So next up is Emily and Dory. And I'm going to say right now, I think I said it in the first episode, I think Emily, for me, is one of the top couples to watch this season because Emily is pursuing her master's in the criminal justice program. And she's out here dating a criminal and has been talking to him for 6 years. In my opinion, I know I have many opinions, but in my opinion, this seems like it's out of protocol somehow. Like this doesn't seem like it's on the up and up. And like I said, unless it's about a thesis paper, maybe. But now that the actual TV show's involved, yeah, I don't know. This may touch on some sort of ethic lines, if you ask me. I could be wrong. So Emily receives a call, and I was at first guessing it was from Dory. It wasn't from Dory. It was from Dory's friend Smoke. Yeah, what's up, Emily? Dory told me that you'd be able to give me that money that he said you would give me for our startup business, that I could come picking up for you. Emily said, huh? Money? From who? Me? She said, oh, no. She goes, no, me and Dory didn't discuss that. Matter of fact, how often do you talk to Dory? Like, where he getting these extra phone calls from? So Emily is already suspicious about, one, getting a phone call from Smoke, who she barely knows. The only thing she knows about Smoke is that Smoke and Dory were bunkmates or shared the same cell while in prison. And so, and then the little something about Smoke and the reason why he went to prison, something like that. But Emily is shutting all that down with the money issue. She's asking Smoke, like, what else can you tell me about Dory? Like, what is really going on? And so Smoke is not really telling her everything. He's just saying, well, me and Dory talked about these business ventures. He said that, you have some money that you could give me so we can start it up. So when he comes home, he'll be able to go along with the business too. Emily said, you know what? Nope. I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard about it, and you not getting no money from me. Peace. And she hangs up the phone. And then the next scene, we're introduced to two young men, and one of the men happens to be Smoke. I'm surprised we got to see someone else with this storyline. Smoke is sitting with either his friends, cousins, somebody, I believe his name is Dory. And they're talking about, oh man, I don't know what's up with Emily and Dory, but, she's not going to give you that money to start that business. And I don't know what's up with that. But I think that Emily is not going to be about little bro coming home and let him do what he wants to do. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Smoke is suspicious of Emily and what the intentions are with Dory. But then we're reminded by Emily that she's also right now a criminal researcher. And if Smoke and Dory try to do things that's not on the up and up, especially Smoke, since Dory's still in prison, yeah, she'll get him put back in prison too, based on the information she finds. So he better tread lightly. So moving to Jessica and Dustin. Now see, Jessica, she's another one of these people on this show who gave up her job for the love of her life that she met in prison. That she gave up her prison job. She was a nurse for quite some time because she met Dustin. Okay, Jessica's like 40 plus. Dustin is in his late 20s. I mean, Dustin is old enough to be either A, your son, B, your nephew. And Jessica just seems to think that, after 2 failed marriages, this is the love of her life. Okay, Jessica. So when we see Jessica, she's sitting on the bed with her daughter, Bailey. Today's the day that they're going to go up to Tennessee to meet Dustin's mother and sister to see if Jessica gets some support from them. And Bailey's saying, like, you know what? Before we even meet Dustin's mom and sister, I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet Dustin. And I have to agree. So I don't necessarily remember. I have to go back and think if Jessica is still in contact with Dustin other than on the phone. And I believe the answer is no. And for Jessica, since Bailey wants to meet or talk to Dustin first, I just wonder why Jessica hasn't set that up to talk to Dustin, especially if you say, Jessica, that your daughter's your best friend, she's your ride or die. You would hope that she would give you some support too, not just the support that you're telling her about Dustin, like all the good things, and hoping like that's just enough for her. And it's not. On the way to Tennessee, they have little quick conversations, and Jessica again is trying to convince Bailey like this is a good thing. When we get there, I plan on switching my job, getting a house, starting over. He told me in a letter that he wrote that he's gonna change my last name, and we're gonna start a family, and I plan on just doing the right thing. And Bailey's like, well, how do you really know? Like, how do you know that's what he wants to do just because he told you? And Jessica's saying like, why would he lie to me? He told me it's gonna be till death do us part. And I'm like, Jessica, he is 27 years old. But if you think that he's the one after your 2 failed marriages, something else got to be going on for this. But then also too, Jessica is complaining to Bailey that she can't see Dustin, and she thinks it's a setup because the Department of Corrections, and she's worked for a few, won't approve her visitation with Dustin. And I'm thinking, does it really take a rocket scientist to see why you can't see Dustin? You work for the Department of Corrections. So you know where keys are held, the ins and out, like the back way, you probably have a parking pass. So yeah, you can't go back because you are a possible threat to have him, escape or something. Like I mentioned before, they've made Lifetime movies about real life stories about people who worked in the prisons who thought they were in love with those prisoners and were double crossed. Well, anyways, Jessica and her daughter finally make it to Tennessee. They're in the outskirts. They're in the outskirts of Tennessee. They have a realtor waiting on them looking at houses so they can have a place to stay when they come up there. And I don't understand why these people give realtors, anybody in a restaurant, random strangers, the reasons why they're getting a home and where their mate is. Like, nobody wants to hear that, you are talking to a felon and you need to, get a place or whatever it is. But hey, I guess that's part of the process. So they look around. The realtor asks, do you want to rent or buy? Jessica says she wants to buy. And then we also learn that Jessica is telling Bailey that she's going to pull out from her 401k so that they can start her new life. And Bailey says, you know what? She didn't like the house. She really don't want to uproot to come to Tennessee. And, this is her mom's life. She really hopes that her mom is doing the right thing for her, for Jessica. Because Bailey says she's got friends, she wants to go to college. She's not trying to run behind her mom and all her mother's bad decisions and choices. And Bailey, I don't blame you, because clearly this is probably not the first time you had to deal with something like this. So let's move to Chelsea and Mikey. Chelsea's dad comes over to talk to Chelsea about her relationship with Mikey and what's going on with Mikey and his health crisis. Because in last week's episode, Chelsea received a text from Mikey's sister, Courtney, to say that Mikey had a stroke and he wasn't doing good. And so today the dad's coming over to get clarification about, what's going on. Like I mentioned, have they heard, or what can they do to help Mikey? And so it takes a while for Chelsea to answer the door, and I'm thinking like, Chelsea, you knew your dad was coming over, and your dad don't approve of your relationship. So you probably wanted to maybe pretend like you weren't there or sleeping or didn't have your phone on vibrate so you could hear someone or whatever you need to take to hear someone at the door. Well, Chelsea finally opens the door. Her and her dad talk, and Chelsea is saying how she still hasn't heard from Mikey and she doesn't know what to do. The mother, the sister haven't been in touch with her. So the dad says, so if you don't know, you haven't tried to follow up or anything? And then Chelsea says, no. So then a text comes in, another one from apparently one of Mikey's friends from prison. And it talks about how Mikey, describing a stroke, But this is on Mikey's account that the friend is texting from. And so the dad says, so if the friend can text, how come no one could text you? And Chelsea's suspicious of that too. Like, how do they find the timeout to text from his phone? Like, how do they get there? And so the dad says, you know what? That don't sound right. So the dad calls the actual Department of Corrections where Mikey is. And the person that answered the phone says, you know, we've got a lot of calls from a lot of people today. Mikey's fine. If Mikey wants to call, reach out, or whatever, he will on his own time. Pretty much like, stop calling here. So the dad says, so who was it? Who was calling for there? Was it a female? And the person says yes. And so the father asks who, and the guy says, well, I don't know. And technically, they're not supposed to tell you even if they did know. It's against rules and regulations. It's the same in the hospital. They can't tell you who's calling for who, even if they did happen to know. It's just, they just don't work like that. So the whole time this call is on speakerphone, and Chelsea is even more upset. She actually says she's pissed off. And the dad says, so I guess he's okay. So what now? And Chelsea, she can't take it no more. So she gets in her car, she speeds off. And the dad says, well, when Chelsea gets pissed, this is how she is. When she's done, this is how she acts. So when we see Chelsea again, she makes it to her friend's house. It's not the friend from last week from her job who said like this was probably a scam anyway, but her friend from the bowling alley when we first met Chelsea the first time. So Chelsea is going back along with a conversation with her dad about what she heard, and like Mikey's okay, and someone was on his phone or whatever, messaging back and forth, and Chelsea is suspicious. Like, Chelsea already has trust issues. And I don't blame Chelsea, you know, because one, the main thing, she happens to be hearing impaired, which is okay. And then having, she said, failed relationships and just coming out of a severe relationship where DV was involved, you know, it's taking time for Chelsea to come back around to be herself and to feel like she can move forward in a new, fresh relationship. But the friend said, you know what? So to Chelsea, she said, since the mom and the sister aren't telling you nothing, no, you need to make phone calls to find out what's going on, because I think, you know, he might be playing you too. And of course, this is something that Chelsea's not trying to hear. So next up is Ty and Hottie. Now, I mean, what do we really say for Ty? She ought to know what's going on. She claimed that she don't. I mean, when Ty got engaged last week to Hottie, she found out from her cousin, who happens to talk to Hottie from time to time. No, apparently Hottie didn't know that they were cousins. So I'm sure Hottie's gonna know really quick. So then Ty decides to call Hottie's cousin, the one who gave her the ring from Hottie, apparently, to get engaged. And she says, hey, can you meet me? I'm about to go look at a plot at the cemetery. Now, before I continue on, you know, I just really don't like to see scenes with Ty, whether it be at her place of business, which is a funeral home, or even a cemetery. I just think that there's a level of respect that should be used, you know, in those situations. Those situations are really sensitive. So maybe she can meet like people at like her house or at a restaurant or somewhere for coffee. In my opinion, like I said, I have lots, but I just really think that there's a different way we can go about this. So Hottie's cousin goes to meet Ty at that cemetery, like I said. Ty's asking her, did you know Hottie got engaged to Boston? And, you know, like, what's going on? Ty says, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, judge your character or nothing like that. Hottie's cousin is holding on to her truth. She's saying, like, listen, I don't know nothing about it. I didn't know that he was even engaged to her. I mean, like, why would he do that? Like, why would I lie to you? Okay, cousin, listen. Now, last week, you had 2 rings. You gave the ring to Ty, and you said you had another ring in your pocket for Boston, just in case it worked out or whatever the case may be. So you knew about this the whole time. So you had your lie down together, just in case it backfired to you, because you are one of the middlemen to Hottie. And guess what? It backfired back to you. But Hottie's cousin is, like I said, holding the line like, girl, it wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do that to you. Maybe you ought to call Boston and set up a meeting. I'm thinking, call Boston. Now, when we saw Ty on her season the first time, That meeting that she had originally with Ty in Boston, with Boston, excuse me, didn't go the best. There was a fight because Ty was like, what are you doing with my man? And Boston was like, yo man, girl, please. I've been knowing Hottie since I was like 15 years old. That is my man, and I've already knew about you. So now with Hottie's cousin telling Ty to call Boston, set up that meeting, and Ty is now like, yeah, I think I will. I mean, what does she think that's going to happen? It's going to be the same thing, the same drama. Nothing's going to be resolved, and they're both going to have their engagement rings on their finger. Last but not least is Justine and Michael. So today's the day that Justine is marrying Michael. She's getting ready with Michael's sister, doing her hair, and Michael's sister is saying, well, I wish I could go and be there with the wedding too at the prison, see my brother get married. I kind of wish, things were different. Like, you should have waited if you could, but I understand. And Justine says, yeah, I'm sorry that you can't go. It's just going to be me, my mom, your mom, and the two oldest daughters from each side of the family. So while she's getting ready, Justine is saying how she's nervous, yet she's happy and just ready to get the show on the road. Now, is it me? When Justine was trying on wedding gowns, when we saw her, wasn't she trying on gowns, that were a little bit nicer, had just a little bit more detail? Now, granted, you can't wear a certain type of a dress or really outfit to a prison anyways, nothing that's revealing or something like that. But this dress right here was a bodycon dress. That's what it looked like to me. Listen, you could have got that, ordered that from anywhere. You didn't have to go to a bridal shop to get that. And madam, I'm not even sure she got that from bridal shop. But you know what? It's neither here nor there. Not my wedding, nor what I want it to be. So now Justine, the mothers, and the oldest children are in the car on the way to the prison to get married. And Michael's mom is saying, like, I'm happy my son's getting married, but I really don't want him to get married this way. And then she's starting asking Justine, like, well, what happens when you're around his friends and maybe around people like, oh my gosh, you married him? Kind of like groupies maybe. And Justine was saying, you know what? That's my man. I'm not worried about that. And those other people, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And Justine's mom is still holding firm, like, yes, you all should have waited. Like, what is the rush? And she's also saying that she wants to know more about Michael, and she's ready to meet him because, you know what? Listen, I'm hard on Justine. I expect the best for her, and I expect the best from Michael. So then we see them finally make it to the prison. They get out, and oh my goodness, we have to wait till next week, or hopefully next week, and not the end of the season, to see them get married. So, all right, everyone. So that was the end of the episode. This episode was okay for me. It was a little bit more interest. I would like to see more of Emily and Dory, see how that storyline is going to progress. Also next week, we see Melissa meet with Mama Donna. And it seems like Melissa and Mama Donna are learning things that could rock the relationship. Melissa with Louie, and Mama Donna giving the eye to Melissa. And as well as, I think we're going to see a little bit more smoke with the Emily and Dory situation as well. So, but either way, I'm here for next week's episode. It actually seems like it could be a good episode. And I'm really interested in hearing again what Mama Donna has to say to Melissa. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to leave your comments. Until next time, live simply, be grateful.